In this video, I'm going to tell you how to render list in React. Pretty important topic. Most of the time, you need to render list in React. And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you a very good tip about the keys in React, which can be a pretty important interview question, which an interviewer can ask you. So stay until the end of the video. So without ado, let's directly jump into the video. Okay, so this is 100 days of coding React and Redux, and today we are going to talk about rendering list. Okay, so I have already created a project called list, if you see here, right? And this is coming from the last video only, last part of the video where we have discussed about how to fetch data using Axios. So I'm hitting this link and I'm basically loading the list of the data, if you see here. So this link is returning me list of post, which I'm not rendering all the post. Actually, I'm just taking the first post, if you see here, and I'm rendering its title. So usually we don't do this, right? Now I want to render all of the posts which are coming from this API. So how to do that? How can we render those multiple elements? So I'm getting that data, right? Result.data, which is array. Now I need to grab this data and I would do render the list. So to render the list, I'm going to create a constant here. I'm going to call it posts, or let's call post list, something like this. And we use something called data.map function. Now this map function is actually coming from the world of JavaScript. And obviously in React, we write JavaScript. So what map function does, it takes the function as an argument, and that function accepts the, I'm going to say item, or we are going to call it post. So basically what is happening here, we are looping through the data. Now this data is an array and this map is a function of an array. And each time when I'm looping through this data, I'm getting each item of this data. So in our case, it is post, right? So when I'm looping, I'm getting the first post, then the second one, then the third one, right? Something like that. Now I'm going to grab each of the post and I'm going to return some JSX. So basically you're taking the data, you're grabbing the data, you're using that data and you're creating something and returning something out of it, which is going to create a new JSX, I would say. Okay, so I'm going to grab the post and I'm going to generate something like this. I'm going to generate different list items. So I'll say li, okay, and inside this li, I'm going to render the post dot title. So for now, we'll render the post dot title just to start with, right? And then I'm going to grab the post list, and instead of rendering just one record, just a title, I'm going to render the all post. So now if I save and go back, we're getting an error. So let me see what is the error. Okay, let me refresh and see. Okay, this is not working. So we have post list. I'm trying to render inside a heading one. Let's do UL. And inside that UL, let's render all of the list. I just need to do a little bit formatting. Okay, then I'm going to use this and I'm going to say post list. So basically I'm calling this. This is just a variable, right? I have created, and I'm looping through the right thing, right? Data.map. I'm getting the post. What is data? Data is nothing but this data, right? And I'm grabbing that and I'm rendering here. Let's see if it works now. It's still not working. This is not working because we are not returning anything from here. So I'm just going to return. And now if I save and go back, see that we are getting the list of all our posts, right? So I'm just showing the title here, but we are getting back a lot of data. I would say we're getting the title also and we're getting the body also. So if you want to show both the data, let's do that. Let's create that example. So instead of, so I'm returning here. If you don't want to return, generally we use this syntax. I just want to talk about that also. So we generally do something like this, where I'm going to put this here. I'm going to grab the li, Control X, Control V. So this is called implicit return. I don't need to write any. And in case of one parameter, even we can skip this also, right? So post, and I'm just returning the li, and probably I can remove this. Let me try this, and it'll just have this. So this much, you can simplify the statement, the map function. So this is more of a JavaScript, right, where I'm implicitly returning the li element. And let's have a semicolon here, and still should work. If I go back and see, it's working fine. Okay, so now I'm going to form different little bit complex structure here. So first, so we have a title and we have the body, right? So for that, I'll create a structure like this. I'm going to put div inside this li. So I'm going to remove this. Okay. And let's have a div. And inside that div, I'm going to have h2. That is like a heading 2. And there I'm going to put post dot title. Okay. And that body part, which is this one, right? Yes, body. So there I'm going to use post dot body. Okay. Right. Now if I save, should be able to see both the things, right? So we can see the title and we can see the body also. And if you want to do any styling, you can try the styling by yourself. I'm going to cover styling part mostly in the project. So this is just for the explanation purpose, right? So that I can cover the topics quickly. So this is how you can return the complex structure also, right? So I'm taking the title and body also. You can do the destructuring also for the post. So each post, right? You can say the title and the body, something like this. So you don't need to use, or don't need to write post multiple times. You can save a lot of typing, by following this syntax. So we have title, body. So now I'm using multiple parameters. So I need to wrap it in the brackets. Okay. Now if I save, it is still working. But there is one important point I would like to cover. That is this. We are getting this warning. Each child in a list should have a unique key prop. Now, why React is giving this warning? And this is really, really important, right? So I can give you the example, right? So if I go here, right now I have so many list element. Now say suppose I want to swap this first element with this third element. So ID 1 with ID 3. What React is going to do behind the scene, it's going to create the entire new structure. So it's going to swap and it's going to re-render all the elements. So say suppose I have 100 elements here. 100 items here, 100 posts here is going to re-render all the 100 posts if you don't use key. That's why it is giving that warning. Each child in a list should have a unique key. And when you give each child here, like, so we have a lot of children here. If you see here, I'll go here, div inside this, I have ulli, right? So I haven't given any child or any key attribute to the list item here. If you don't give that, it's going to re-render all the elements. Imagine if there are thousands of elements, it's going to re-render all the elements in case of any changes in the list item, right? Say suppose I'm swapping this one with this one. I'm just trying to give you the example. But if we give the ID to each li element here, if I give that key attribute to each element here, it helps React to understand and swap only those two elements. So it's going to do the DOM swapping of these two elements only, and rest of the element will stay as it is. So that will help, in improved performance. So if someone asks you, what is the use of key in React? So you can answer this question, right? Giving this example probably, where, if we are trying to swap the element, or we are trying to change the structure of our element or post, for example, here, right? It improves the performance if we give the key, because React is going to compare the keys behind the scene to swap the DOM elements rather than taking the entire data and creating the DOM for that data and re-rendering it again, which will degrade the performance. Okay, so I hope you understood. So key should be a unique value. And most of the time we use something called ID, which is coming from the data which we are loading from the API. And usually we get the ID from the API. Okay, so here we are getting this ID, which is a unique value, not user ID, right? Only ID. So this is more of a ID of a post, right? And in case you don't have anything, when we loop through the data, we usually get something called index as another argument. So you can use index also. But in this case, I'm going to use ID. So let's destructure, let's find out the ID from our post. And now I'm going to use this ID as key is equals to ID. And if I save now and if I go back to my application and refresh, see that error is now gone. And now each li element, if I inspect, each li is having a key value. If you see here, this is $0. Maybe I don't know if it's showing. No, that's not the key value. It's not, the React is actually not showing any key here, but behind the scene, React has that value in its virtual DOM, the object which React create before it rendering into the actual DOM of the browser. So this is really important. This can be an interview question, maybe asked by someone in an interview. So keep a note of it somewhere, right? Quickly, I'm going to recap, right? For the performance reason, we use key whenever we create the list of items in React. Cool. So when you want to create list of items, right, we generally use the map function and we get the data. Like in this case, we are getting each individual post and we are using the list item to render all that data. And finally, I'm rendering it inside unordered list element here. I hope this is helpful because we're going to use a list in most of the cases, and in your own project, in your professional career also, this is the part which you are going to use most of the time, like rendering list. So practice it, try, take this code, right, and practice it so that you can understand it and you should be able to easily implement it in your corporate project or in your personal project. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop here. I'll see you in the next video with another topic in React. Until then, you take care, goodbye, and thanks for watching the video.